I've always been scared of cars. It sounds dumb when you say it out loud, especially for a grown man. But it's the truth. When I was 8, I was riding my bike down Maple Street like I did every summer evening. Nothing special about the day. Just the regular smell of grass clippings in the air and the hot sun baking the pavement. I didn't even see the car. Just a screech, a crunch, and then the sound of someone screaming. Maybe it was me. I don't remember much after that, except waking up in the hospital and feeling like someone had scooped my legs out and filled them with fire. After that, I never wanted to get near a car again. Didn't even want to look at them. Never learned to drive. I took the bus or walked to my jobs, worked at the hardware store, did odd stuff around the house. Then there was Claire, my wife. She and I met at a bookshop. She wasn't scared of anything. Not dogs, not spiders, not thunderstorms, not even cars. She was the kind of person who'd wear bright yellow on a rainy day just to spit in the eye of the clouds. We got married young. Stayed close ever since. We made each other whole in a lot of ways. My quiet steadiness calmed her storms, and her bravery gave me a little of my own. So when she offered to learn to drive for us, so we didn't have to keep depending on buses or favors, I felt proud. Nervous too. The thing is, Claire wasn't very good behind the wheel. Her turns were too wide, her stops too late. She once backed into our own mailbox and then blamed it for being in the way. But she didn't give up. She kept trying. I couldn't help her much. I mean, I didn't even have a license. The sound of tires squealing still made my throat close up. So, I'd stand at the porch steps and watch her drive around the block, chewing the inside of my lip and praying she didn't hit anything. Then came Jason. He was our next-door neighbor. A guy in his mid-30s, barrel-chested, always had dirt under his nails. He had a smug kind of smile, like he knew things you didn't. He'd been fixing cars since he was a teen and ran a repair shop in town. Claire called him a grease monkey, like it was cute. One Saturday morning, I was out back trimming the hedge when I heard Claire laughing in the front yard. I peeked around and saw Jason leaning against our mailbox, yes, the one Claire had crushed. He had a rag hanging from his pocket and a toothpick in his mouth. They were talking about the car, her driving, how bad she was at parking. He laughed. She did too. Then he offered to help her. Teach her. I didn't like it, but I didn't say anything. I was never the jealous type. Besides, it made Claire happy. After dinner, she'd talk about how Jason showed her how to angle into the driveway or check her mirrors better. I told myself it was fine. But something started to change. Claire got bolder. She started staying out longer during her practice drives. Said Jason had new exercises, that he wanted her to practice reversing uphill, parking between cones, that sort of thing. Some nights she'd come home smelling like motor oil and chewing gum, not her usual perfume. One day, I noticed a small stuffed monkey sitting in the cup holder of her car. Brown fur, tiny eyes, and a little red hat. Claire laughed when I asked her about it. Oh, Jason puts them in cars sometimes. It's a joke, she said, waving her hand like it was nothing. He calls himself a monkey mechanic. Didn't seem funny to me. Still, I stayed quiet. Kept my fears and doubts bottled up tight. Until the day I saw it with my own eyes. It was a Wednesday. I remember that because I had the day off. The sun was already slipping low behind the houses. I stepped outside to bring in the trash cans. That's when I noticed the garage light was on. Claire's car was parked inside, windows all fogged up. I don't know what made me walk closer. Maybe it was the way the car rocked slightly side to side. Not like wind. Not like anything natural. And the windows, thick with steam, like someone had been breathing heavy inside for a while. I crept up slow. My feet felt like anchors, my chest pounding hard enough to shake my ribs. Through the fogged-up glass, I saw a blur. Then the glass cleared just enough, and I saw her. Claire. Her head was tilted back, eyes closed, mouth open in what looked like a sigh of ecstasy. Her shirt was open, one hand clutching the headrest, the other gripping someone's forearm. Behind her was a figure, big, strong, pulling her hair. Jason. His face was red, sweaty, and satisfied. He didn't even look out the window. Neither did she. They were lost in each other, like I didn't exist. Like I never had. I didn't move. I didn't yell. I just stood there, watching, the kind of stillness you feel when your body goes numb and your soul steps out to look back at itself. A few minutes later, she climbed off him, adjusted her clothes, and laughed. That same laugh I used to think was mine. Jason leaned forward and kissed her neck before tossing something into the passenger seat. It was another monkey. Same brown fur, same red hat. I walked back to the house, shut the door behind me, and sat down at the kitchen table. My hands were shaking. Not from rage. Not yet. Just from the cold truth sinking in. I was nothing but a scared little boy again. Watching something terrible from behind a sheet of glass, unable to move. But that was the last time I stayed still. That night, I started planning. Because if Jason liked leaving monkeys in the cars of the wives he defiled, I was going to give him one back. And this time, it wouldn't be stuffed. I didn't sleep that night. Claire came in late. I heard the front door click at almost 11. She didn't know I was awake, sitting in the dark with a glass of water in my hand and a blanket over my knees like some old ghost. She tiptoed through the hallway, trying not to make the floorboards squeak. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Something in me had split clean in two. The part of me that loved her, that soft, stupid piece of me, was curled up in a ball in the back of my chest. The other part, the part that watched them through the fogged glass, that part had started to grow. She went straight to the shower. I could hear the water running and her humming a tune she used to sing while baking cookies. That sound hurt worse than the sight of her with Jason. The next morning, I got up early. Too early. I made coffee, burned the toast, and pretended like I hadn't seen her sin unfold in the garage the night before. Claire came into the kitchen, wrapped in her pink robe, still drying her hair. "Mornin', sleepyhead," she said like nothing happened. I gave her a half smile. "Morning." She didn't meet my eyes. That used to bother me. Now, it confirmed everything. She poured herself some coffee and said she was going to Jason's later to practice parallel parking. My jaw clenched, but I nodded. "Take your time," I said. She did. That day, I walked over to Jason's place. He had a separate garage behind his house, with a sign that read, "Repairs done cheap. Real official." I crept around back and peered through a dirty side window. There were tools scattered on a bench, empty cans of Coke, a calendar with half-naked girls, and a shelf lined with toy monkeys. At least a dozen of them. Some big, some small. All wearing that same smug little red hat. That's when I knew this wasn't a one-time thing. Jason had a pattern. A ritual. He was a collector of other men's wives, and the monkey was his brand. His trophy. Claire had just become another notch on his greasy belt. I didn't go back home right away. I walked. Down the old railroad path behind the neighborhood. Past the church where we got married. Past the diner where we used to eat Sunday pancakes. Everything looked the same, but it all felt fake. I spent the rest of the afternoon in the basement. That's where I kept my old high school tools, stuff my dad gave me before he passed. Rusted wrenches. A soldering iron. Duct tape. Rope. Things a man might need when he finally stops being a doormat. I wasn't planning anything yet. Not fully. But I was starting to understand something. Jason didn't just hurt me. He hurt me on purpose. He saw my fear. He saw Claire's need. And he drove his way right into the middle of it. So I waited. The next week was a dance of lies. Claire kept going to practice. I kept pretending I didn't know. At night, she climbed into bed smelling like sweat and cheap air freshener. I rolled over and gave her my back. And every day, I added something to the plan. See, Jason had a routine too. Every Friday night, he'd go to the Wrench Tap, a greasy bar on the edge of town. He'd drink, shoot pool, maybe charm some waitress into giving him her number. He never locked his garage. Thought he was untouchable. That Friday, I waited until the sky turned the color of an old bruise. I slipped on my gloves, tucked my cap low, and walked down the alley behind his house. The garage door squeaked as I lifted it. I stepped inside and let the stink of oil and arrogance hit me in the face. I walked straight to the monkey shelf. Picked one up. A small one with a banana stitched into its hand. Then I walked to his tool bench and unscrewed the panel behind it. He kept his spare car keys in there, just like Claire said during one of her mindless dinner rambles. I dunno why Jason's so confident, she'd giggled. He keeps all his clients' keys just lying around in his garage. She had no idea she'd handed me the first nail in his coffin. I found the key to Claire's car and made a copy at the hardware store the next morning. No one questioned it. Just another guy with a key. Now, I had access. That Sunday, while Claire was in the shower again, I slipped outside and opened her car. The monkey was still there, same seat, same smug face. I took it. In its place, I left something better, a photo. One I printed from Jason's garage camera. I had borrowed his dashcam for an hour after finding it tossed in a box. Turns out, Jason recorded everything. Probably for fun. Maybe as insurance. I didn't care. The photo I left showed Jason and another woman. Not Claire. Not even someone from town. Just some other man's wife, from God knows when, bent over the hood of a car with Jason grinning behind her. I tucked the photo into the visor. Knew Claire would find it eventually. Then I waited. 2 days later, Claire was quiet. Real quiet. She barely spoke during dinner. Didn't even finish her food. She kept looking out the window like she was trying to solve a puzzle that kept changing. I pretended not to notice. That night, she asked me, "Do you think people can really change?" I chewed my bite of chicken too long before answering. Only if they want to. She didn't reply. I could feel the war starting behind her eyes. 3 days later, it blew up. Claire stormed in one evening, her face blotchy and her fists clenched. She threw something on the kitchen table. It was the monkey. The one I'd taken from her car. He said I was different, she hissed. Said I was the only one. I didn't look up from my coffee. "I guess you were just one of many," I said calmly. "He's got a whole shelf of those monkeys, Claire. Yours was number 11, I think." She stared at me, her mouth open but no sound coming out. Then, slowly, she sat down. She didn't cry. Not yet. Just stared at that stupid toy like it had murdered her dog. I didn't comfort her. Not this time. I let the silence drag. When she finally spoke, her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Yes, you did," I said. "Maybe not at first. But you kept going back. That's what hurt." She started to cry then, quiet and messy. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I'm not done," I said. "Not yet." She looked confused. "What do you mean?" I stood and walked toward the window, watching Jason across the street, working on someone's engine. I mean, he's gotten away with it too many times. And now it's my turn. Jason liked to talk. That was his weakness. Guys like him always think they're invincible, especially when they've got charm, muscles, and a history of taking whatever they want. But eventually, they slip up. They say too much. They trust the wrong person. That person was me. A few days after Claire's breakdown at the table, I walked across the street, calm as could be, and asked Jason to take a look at our water heater. Said it was making weird noises. That sort of thing. He didn't suspect a thing. You finally gonna let me help around the house, huh? He chuckled, wiping his hands on a rag. About time. I forced a laugh. You're the expert. He followed me inside, his heavy boots stomping on our hardwood like he owned the place. I led him down into the basement. It smelled like dust, rust, and the slow decay of old boxes. Jason squatted by the heater, pretending to know what he was doing. Claire's doing better with the car, he said casually. Girl just needed the right kind of teacher, you know? I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. She always had it in her, I said. Just needed a little push. He looked up at me then. Smirked. That arrogant grease-stained grin that showed just enough teeth to make you want to knock them out. Funny thing about women, he said, standing. Give them the wheel, and they'll take you for a ride. I gave him a smile so thin it might as well have been carved in glass. Jason headed back upstairs. Nothing serious down there, he said over his shoulder. Just air in the line. Happens when things sit unused too long. Just like people, I muttered. He didn't hear me. Before he left, I asked him about the monkeys. Casual, like I was just curious. What's with those toys, anyway? Claire told me you keep 'em in the cars you fix. Jason snorted. Ah, it's just a stupid joke. Mark of the monkey, I call it. Means I slept there. You know, left my scent. He winked. I nodded. Weird. You'd be surprised how many women laugh at it, he added. Some even keep 'em on their dashboards. Trophies of their own. He said that without a shred of shame. I closed the door behind him, locked it, and leaned my forehead against the wood. My pulse was a drumbeat of rage. He was proud of it. Proud of what he did to me. To Claire. To all the other poor fools who probably never found the monkey before it was too late. I needed to break that pride. The next part of the plan came together faster than I expected. Claire was a wreck. She stopped driving. Stopped leaving the house. She'd stare out the window at Jason's place with hollow eyes and dry lips. I was so stupid, she whispered one night, curled in our bed like a child. He made me feel powerful. Wanted. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to forgive. Maybe I never would. But I wasn't done using her either. Claire, I said the next morning. I need your help with something. She looked at me cautiously, like a deer expecting a bullet. I need you to get him to your car. One more time. One more lesson. Her face crumpled. What? No. No, I can't. You're not sleeping with him, I said. You're baiting him. That's all. She swallowed hard. Why? Because he's done this before. And I'm going to make sure it never happens again. That Friday, Claire knocked on Jason's door. I watched from behind the curtains. She wore the same sundress she used to wear when we went out for ice cream in the summer. Her hair was down. She looked like the woman I married, and that made something twist inside me. Jason opened the door and grinned like a wolf. They talked for a few minutes. She pointed toward our house. He nodded. His hand rested on her shoulder for a second too long. Then they walked toward our garage. Showtime. I had rigged the garage earlier that day. Not dangerously, just dramatically. I wired the car's speaker system to a small recorder. Hid a second camera in the far corner, one of those motion-activated things hunters use. I covered the back seat with old receipts, wrappers, crumpled bits of Claire's love notes. Stuff that made the car look like it had seen 1,000 secret meetings. In the center console, I placed the photo of Jason with the other woman. Right beside a new monkey, the same one I'd taken. But this time, I'd stitched something into its back, a note. One line. "You're not the only monkey in town." Jason climbed into the car with Claire, laughing about something. I couldn't hear the audio live, but the video would pick it up. He looked relaxed. Too relaxed. Like a man in his throne. Claire tapped the console. He opened it. Saw the photo. His smile faltered. She pointed to the monkey. He picked it up. Saw the stitching. His face twisted into something darker. Confusion, then suspicion, then anger. Claire said something I couldn't hear. Probably a lie. Maybe the truth. Jason opened the car door, stepped out, and slammed it shut. I stepped out from behind the house then. He saw me. For a second, his expression flickered, almost like fear. But then the smirk came back. "You think this is funny?" he barked. "You snooping through my stuff?" "I think the game's over," I said. Claire stood behind him now, arms folded, no longer trembling. "I should have known," Jason muttered. "You were too soft. Hiding behind your wife, letting her take lessons from a real man." "You're not a real man," I said. "You're a parasite. And you're done." He took a step toward me. "You gonna stop me?" I smiled. "No," I said. "You're gonna stop yourself." I pressed a button on the small remote in my pocket. The speakers inside Claire's car blasted to life, recordings I'd spliced together from Jason's dashcam, his own voice describing his monkey system, laughing about the women, bragging about what he did in other people's cars. Jason turned pale. The neighbors heard it. People came out of their homes. They stared at the garage where the filth of his voice filled the air. Claire stood tall beside me now, arms crossed, eyes cold. Jason turned and ran. Right back into his house. Slammed the door. The next day, I uploaded the footage. His face. His voice. His trophies. Everything. I called it, Grease Monkey Confessions. Claire and I didn't speak for a while after that. Not really. We shared space. Ate food. Slept in the same bed. But the walls were thicker now. Things had been broken. But when I came home one evening to find the monkey burned in the fire pit and the car sold on Craigslist, I knew she was trying. "I don't want to drive anymore," she told me. "Good," I said. "We'll walk together." She nodded. Maybe we wouldn't be perfect again. But Jason wouldn't hurt anyone else. And I didn't feel like a scared little boy anymore. I'd finally taken the wheel. You'd think exposing a man like Jason would feel like a victory. And for a moment, it did. When I hit upload, when I saw the video views climb into the thousands, comments piling up like dry leaves under a storm, it gave me something I hadn't felt in years: power. Not just over him. Over myself. But revenge is a tricky thing. Once the smoke clears, you're still standing there with ashes on your hands. Jason disappeared the day after the video went viral. His garage sat quiet, the doors chained up, a red "for sale" sign hammered into the dry grass out front. The sheriff came by once, said nothing official was being charged, Jason hadn't broken any legal laws. Just moral ones. "You embarrassed him," the sheriff said with a shrug. "Sometimes that's worse." Maybe. Maybe not. The neighborhood buzzed for a while. People whispered, stared. A few wives looked a little too guilty. A few husbands a little too wounded. Jason had been busy over the years, more than I'd even guessed. But then the gossip faded, and life rolled on. People have short memories when the scandal isn't theirs. Claire and I didn't talk about him again. Not directly. We were polite. Civil, shared dinner. Took short walks. But there was something missing, a kind of silence that had its own weight. We never brought up the affair or the garage. It sat between us like an invisible passenger we couldn't kick out. Then one afternoon, she came home with groceries and a driver's manual in her bag. "I want to try again," she said. "With driving?" I asked, startled. She nodded. "On my own this time. No shortcuts." I studied her for a moment. "You sure?" She gave me the smallest smile. "You think I want to be defined by that mistake for the rest of my life?" That was the first time she called it what it was. A mistake. So we started fresh. Slow. We drove to the high school parking lot on Sundays when it was empty. She'd get behind the wheel, and I'd sit beside her with white knuckles and shallow breaths. The accident I'd been in as a kid, it still lived inside me. Some days, I'd flinch just hearing an engine turn over. Other days, I could pretend it was just a machine. Just metal and gas and gears. Claire respected that. If I got too stiff, she stopped. If she felt overwhelmed, we'd switch seats and sit in silence. We weren't healing fast. But we were healing. Then came the day she drove us to the grocery store all on her own. I sat in the passenger seat like a man crossing a tightrope. She pulled in slowly, angled into the spot right, hands steady. For a second, it felt like nothing had ever gone wrong. "Not bad," I said, voice cracking just a little. Claire looked over. "You didn't even flinch this time." "I'm evolving," I said with a grin. She laughed. A real one. The kind I hadn't heard in months. But that night, something strange happened. When we got home and she popped the trunk to grab the groceries, there it was. A toy monkey. Same kind as before. Same red hat. Same smug eyes. Just sitting on top of the bread like it belonged there. Claire froze. I stepped beside her and picked it up. Turned it over. Nothing stitched on it. No note. No clue. Claire looked like she was about to be sick. "Did you?" she started. "No," I said, feeling cold seep into my neck. We both stared at it, then at each other. "But he's gone," she whispered. "He left. He's gone." I nodded. "Yeah. And yet." That night, I checked every lock in the house. Twice. Then I walked across the street. Jason's place was still empty. I tried the side gate, still chained shut. Looked through the garage windows, nothing but dust and an old tarp on the floor. But when I turned to leave, I found something on my porch back home. Another monkey. Sitting on the step. Arms crossed. It hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. The next morning, Claire wouldn't stop pacing. She held the monkey from the trunk in her hands like it might explode. "This isn't over," she said. "I don't think it ever was," I replied. I tried to shake it off. Told myself it was probably a prank. Someone in town trying to be funny. Maybe a neighbor. Maybe someone who saw the video and thought it'd be hilarious to mess with me. But in my gut, I knew. Jason didn't leave. Not really. He was watching. Lurking. Playing. And now, he wanted us to know he was still around. I started getting notes. At first, they were simple. Scraps of paper tucked into our mailbox or under our windshield. Not everyone forgives. Monkey see, monkey do. She liked it. Each one printed in black ink on cheap white stock, probably from an office printer. Claire found one in her purse at the salon. Another in her glove box. The fear returned to her face. The regret. The shame. All of it came flooding back. But this time, I didn't just sit in silence. "I'll handle it," I said. "You're not going to fall apart again. I won't let him do this to you. Or me." She nodded slowly, eyes wide. I installed cameras around the house. Picked up motion lights from the hardware store. Bought a dog. A big, loud mutt named Diesel who barked at shadows and took a particular hatred to anyone who even looked at our mailbox. I scoured forums. Asked around town quietly. A few people said they'd seen Jason in the next county over, working at a junkyard. Someone else claimed he'd been arrested. Someone else said he was dead. But none of them could explain the monkeys. And then one morning, I found something worse in the garage. Our car. Our little red Honda, now completely defaced. Scratched deep into the passenger door was one word. Again. The monkey was on the hood. Its red hat soaked in motor oil. I stood there in the silence for almost 10 full minutes before I picked up my phone. I dialed. Not the police. Not Claire. I called Jason. I still had his number. Buried deep in an old contacts list I hadn't cleaned out. It rang once. Then again. And then. "Hello," came the voice. Calm. Even. Mocking. I didn't say anything. "You like the new hood ornament?" he said. "It's custom." My fingers tightened on the phone. "What do you want?" He laughed. "You think this is about wanting something? You humiliated me. You made me a joke." "You are a joke," I growled. "You took everything from me," he said. "Now I'm gonna take it back. Piece by piece." The line went dead. I stood in the garage for a long time. Longer than I probably should have. Diesel barked from the porch. Claire called my name from inside. But I just kept staring at that monkey. I'd won. I'd exposed him. Driven him into hiding. But now I understood something else. Jason wasn't just some sleaze with a shelf full of monkey trophies. He was a predator. And predators don't go away when you film them. They come back. Smarter. Quieter. Angrier. And now? He wasn't playing games anymore. He was starting a war. After the phone call, sleep disappeared from my life. Even with Diesel guarding the house like a soldier and the cameras blinking red through the night, I couldn't rest. I kept hearing Jason's voice in my head, calm, smug, too damn sure of himself. "You humiliated me." No. He humiliated himself. But guys like Jason? They rewrite the story in their heads. Make themselves the victim. And now, he thought he was the hero of his own little revenge tale. Not on my watch. Claire was quiet for a few days after the car was scratched. She didn't ask if I'd spoken to Jason. She didn't have to. She knew I had. She knew I was dragging us both deeper into this mess, but she didn't stop me. One night, I caught her standing by the garage, just staring at it like it was a haunted house. The monkey was gone. I'd burned it in the fire pit behind the shed, but the word again still scrawled across the side of the car in deep clawed lines. I stood beside her. Neither of us said anything for a while. Then she whispered. "He won't stop." "I know," I said. "I don't want to be afraid of him anymore." I looked at her. "Then don't be." She nodded. Slowly. Her lips tight. And that's when I knew, Claire was ready. The next morning, I visited an old friend of mine, Benny. He worked security at a truck yard just outside town and owed me a favor from a long time ago when we were both dumb and younger. "Need help with someone?" he asked, sipping gas station coffee. "Someone giving you grief?" I nodded. "Big grief." He leaned back in his chair. "Talk." So I told him the story. All of it. From Claire learning to drive, to the garage window fogged up, to the monkey, to the scratch on my car. Benny didn't laugh. He didn't smirk. He looked mad. "You say he used those monkeys to mark his conquests," he said. "Yeah. Creep's got a pattern. You know what that means?" "What?" "It means he's predictable." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean, we can trap him?" "Exactly. We set it up carefully." Claire volunteered to help. She was shaky at first, scared, ashamed, uncertain. But she wanted to finish this. She said it felt like leaving a door wide open every day. She couldn't breathe unless it closed, for good. We used an old car from Benny's lot. A rust-red Chevy Malibu with tinted windows and a half-broken rear-view mirror. We parked it in the alley beside the high school gym, the kind of place Jason used to strike. Familiar ground. Claire would be the bait. She'd sit in the driver's seat, engine running, pretending to wait for someone. A little nervous. A little eager. Just enough to draw Jason in, if he was still watching her like I suspected. We had 2 tiny cameras hidden in the car. One in the dash vent. One stitched into her purse strap. Benny and I watched the feed from inside a van across the street. We waited. Hours passed. Nothing. But then, just before dusk, a figure stepped out from the trees across the lot. Hoodie. Jeans. Ball cap pulled low. Claire stiffened. Benny leaned forward. "That him?" I nodded. Jason walked slowly, casually, like a guy just out for a stroll. He looked around once, then headed straight for the Malibu. He knocked on the passenger window. Claire unlocked the door. My breath caught in my throat. He slid in. And smiled. "You miss me?" Jason asked her, his voice crackling through our speakers. "That garage of yours just doesn't feel the same." Claire kept her cool. "I didn't come here for a reunion." Jason chuckled. "You came here for closure, then? Is that it?" "Something like that." He reached over and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. She flinched. "You're tense," he whispered. "You weren't tense that first time. Or the second. Or..." "Don't," she said. "You came looking for the monkey, didn't you?" "I came to ask why," she said. Jason leaned back in the seat, laughed. "You want the truth? You were convenient. Easy. Bored. Lonely. And I wanted you because he couldn't have you. That's all it ever is." Claire swallowed. Her hands clenched the wheel. "That's what you do?" she said. "Leave monkeys behind like dog tags?" He shrugged. "Souvenirs. Marks of pride. Reminders of who really owns the road." Claire reached into her bag. Pulled out one of the old monkeys. She placed it on the dash. "Then let me return this." Jason's smirk faltered. He reached for it, and the moment he touched it, Benny hit the lights. Police swarmed the car. We had them waiting a block away. Benny called in a friend from the sheriff's office and showed him the footage. The audio. The full story. It wasn't enough to convict Jason for what he'd done to Claire. But it was enough to bring heat. They arrested him for trespassing, harassment, and destruction of property. But more importantly, we put him under the spotlight. Every woman in the county saw his face online again, this time with a clear recording of him confessing his pattern. Claire's hidden mic picked it all up. His monkey system. His ownership. His games. That second video went viral, too. Faster than the first. Bigger. News picked it up. Other women started coming forward. 1. Then 3. Then 8. Jason didn't just lose his business this time. He lost everything. A month passed. We sat on the porch together. Claire had just gotten back from her first solo drive to the city. I handed her a beer. She sipped it slowly. "You okay?" I asked. She looked out at the street, the spot where Jason used to live. The for sale sign was gone. A new family was moving in, kids chasing each other with Nerf guns, dog barking. Claire nodded. "I'm okay," she said. "I think we're okay." I nodded. "No more monkeys," I said. She laughed, really laughed this time. And then, like fate itself approved, Diesel barked once and went back to sleep at our feet. I still don't like cars. Still don't like tight spaces or roaring engines or the way glass looks when it fogs up from the inside. But I'm not afraid anymore. Not of driving. Not of losing Claire. And definitely not of men like Jason. Because monsters lose their power when you stop playing their game. And we did more than stop playing. We made our own rules. Things had quieted down. For the first time in months, Claire and I could sit at the kitchen table and talk about things that didn't involve Jason. No toy monkeys, no legal updates, no strange noises at night. Just coffee, toast, and peace. Diesel, always alert, had taken to sleeping through the night. I even started driving again, a little. Just short distances. We took turns, Claire and I, like a normal couple. Sometimes I'd catch myself smiling without realizing it. But peace is like a glass vase in a storm. You get to admire it for a moment before you realize something's about to shatter. It started with a phone call. Claire was folding laundry in the living room. I was cleaning up in the garage, finally ready to fix the deep scratches Jason had carved into the car. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? Silence. Then a voice. Low. Slurred. "Why, you did this to me." My blood turned to ice. "Jason?" He coughed. Or maybe laughed. It was hard to tell. I lost everything. My shop. My truck. My name. "You took it all." "You did that yourself," I said. "And you're lucky I didn't take your teeth with it." Another breath. "I want it back." "You're not getting a damn thing." Silence again. Then, "Tell Claire I'll see her soon." The call ended. I called the sheriff. He said Jason had skipped his court dates. A bench warrant was issued, but they hadn't found him. No credit cards used, no phone pings. Gone. "But he's not stupid," the sheriff said. "Just sick. Dangerous. If he reaches out again, call me." I hung up and walked straight to Claire. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She sat down and looked me in the eye. "Then we end this. Tonight." We locked the house tight. Closed the blinds. I turned every camera on, even added 2 more on the roof. Diesel stayed at my side like he could smell something in the air. But midnight passed. Then 2 a.m. Silence. By 4 a.m., Claire had drifted off on the couch. I watched her for a while, her hand resting near Diesel's neck, like she needed his heartbeat to anchor her to the earth. And then... bang! The sound came from outside. The garage. I stood. Diesel growled, low and deep. Claire sat bolt upright. We moved as one. I had a bat. She had her phone ready. We crept through the hallway. The cameras were on, nothing on the porch feed. Nothing at the back door. But then, one feed flickered. Garage cam 3. Someone was inside. Not just inside. Under the car. I stormed out with Diesel in front of me, Claire behind with the phone to her ear calling the sheriff. The garage door was ajar. Inside, I found him. Jason. Covered in grease. Oil smeared across his hoodie. His face was thinner, eyes wild, like a raccoon cornered in a trap. He was under the car with a wrench in his hand. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted. He slid out slowly, breathing heavy. "Just a little gift," he muttered. Diesel barked, lunging. I held him back. Jason stood, backing toward the wall. "You humiliated me. All for what? Some wife that opened the door for me?" I took a step forward. "You're sick. You think this is over?" he whispered, his voice cracking. "You think this ends with a few videos?" He reached into his hoodie and threw something toward me. I caught it by instinct. A car key. It was mine. The one we kept on the hook inside the garage. The emergency spare. He'd already been inside. The sheriff came 10 minutes later. They cuffed Jason while Diesel barked his head off. Claire stayed quiet, eyes fixed on the oil puddle under the car. "I didn't do anything yet," Jason kept yelling. "Can't prove anything. I was just fixing a loose bolt." The sheriff looked at me. "You've got a hell of a garage, son." I didn't say anything. Just handed over the wrench. It had a monkey carved into the handle. They took Jason away, for good this time. They found footage on his phone from other houses, other cars. Dozens of women. Hidden cameras. Notes. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came a week later. Claire took the car to the mechanic, just to be safe. Told them she thought Jason had tampered with something. The mechanic called the next day. "Sir," he said, "you're lucky your wife didn't die." I froze. "What do you mean?" "Brake line," he said. "It was rigged. Slit halfway through and sealed with wax. Would have held up for maybe 20, 30 miles. Then, snap. My legs went weak." He wasn't just vandalizing the car. He was planning to kill her. Or maybe me. That night, Claire and I sat in the kitchen. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Then she said, "I drove the car 3 times this week. Grocery store. My mom's. The library." I nodded. We both realized at the same time how close we'd come to never sitting at that table again. So we made a decision. We sold the car. Not just because of the brake line. Because it wasn't just a car anymore. It was where everything started. Where Jason had touched our lives. Where he put his mark. A 4-wheeled reminder of everything he tried to ruin. We donated the money. Used it to buy 2 bikes. Diesel got his own trailer. Now we ride around the neighborhood, side by side. Wind in our hair. No glass, no gears, no fogged up windows. Just freedom. And distance from a ghost that finally got locked away. But sometimes, even now, when I see a red toy in the street, I slow down. And I listen. Because monsters don't always stay gone. And some games don't really end. They just change roads. You'd think selling the car would have been the end of it. No more oil stains. No fogged up windows. No monkeys. Claire and I were finally rebuilding our lives. The media noise around Jason had died down. His trial was approaching, but we were no longer involved. The state had more than enough evidence from the dozens of other women who came forward. We weren't the face of the case anymore. Just another couple who had been pulled into his sick game. And we were glad to fade into the background. But trauma doesn't care about court dates or headlines. It lingers. It scratches at the walls when the house is too quiet. It slips into your coffee when you think you're enjoying a peaceful morning. And in our case, it came back as a delivery box. It arrived on a Tuesday. Plain brown package. No return address. Just sitting on our porch like it belonged there. Claire was the one who found it. She called me out, her voice thin. I came out, saw her holding the box like it was a snake about to strike. "It doesn't have a name," she said. Diesel sniffed it once and growled. His ears flat. I brought it inside. Put on gloves. Cut the tape. Inside was a small red velvet pouch. I opened it. Another monkey. Smaller this time. Ceramic. Cracked on the side. A chip missing from one ear. But it was unmistakable. And beneath it, a note. "You missed one." The sheriff came immediately. He examined the box. Ran it for prints. Nothing useful. The monkey was different than Jason's usual kind. He used those cheap, fuzzy carnival prize monkeys. This was handmade. Deliberate. And that scared me more. Because it meant this wasn't some leftover he stashed and someone mailed. It meant someone made this recently. Someone who knew. Claire didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. Diesel stayed curled between us, like he could keep the nightmares away by sheer force of loyalty. The next day, I went digging. I went through the old footage again, the one from the sting operation in the car, the one that got Jason arrested. I zoomed in on Jason's eyes. On the way he talked. He kept saying, "We." Even back then. "You think we're done? You think we just disappear?" "We." Back then I thought it was a figure of speech. Now I wasn't sure. I remembered something Jason had said, something I brushed off at the time. All for what? Some wife who opened the door for me? He said it bitter. Like he wasn't just angry about being caught, but about how we caught him. Like someone else had warned him. Set him up. Or maybe, someone else had expected it. The thought hit me like cold water. What if Jason wasn't working alone? I pulled out the old phone we had taken from Jason's truck. The one the police copied and returned after extracting evidence. I went through the videos, the photos, the texts again. Most of the messages were disgusting, juvenile, or worse, trophies from his twisted ego. But one caught my attention now, when it hadn't before. A message from someone saved as. Sent the week before he scratched the word, "again," into our car. Keep her close. The new one's not like the others. Remember, garages are for ghosts. Leave the mark. I'll be watching. There was no response. Just Jason's angry reply a few days later. She set me up. You told me she was soft. This is on you. I stared at that message for a long time. Jason wasn't the architect. He was just a tool. A charming, greasy, womanizing fool with a monkey gimmick. But someone else? Someone more careful, they were pulling strings. And maybe, still were. I didn't tell Claire right away. She was already stretched thin, every creak of the house made her jump. I could see it in her eyes. The fear that she thought she'd buried. It was crawling back up again. But I did tell Benny. He came by that evening, holding a flashlight in one hand and a bottle of bourbon in the other. You think this is real? He asked after I showed him the texts. I didn't think so before. But the monkey in the box? That wasn't Jason. It felt like a signature. Benny took a slow sip. I've seen this kind of thing before. Not monkeys, obviously. But guys who trade tips. Build networks. Predators aren't loners anymore. They're online. They brag. They recruit. So what do we do? He looked out the window. We don't wait for another monkey. We installed more cameras. Not just around the house, but the neighborhood. Benny called in favors from other security guys in town. We didn't report it to the sheriff this time, there was nothing illegal yet, and I didn't want this person to go to ground. We were hunting a shadow. And then, something happened. The kid across the street, Brady, about 17, came to our door 2 days later with his mom. He looked nervous, like he was about to confess to breaking a window. Instead, he held out a small object wrapped in tissue paper. Another monkey. But this one wasn't in our yard. It was under his mom's car. He'd found it while helping her change a tire. A ceramic monkey. Same kind. Same crack on the ear. Like it came from the same mold. But on the back was a name scratched in pencil. Claire. That night, I told Claire everything. The messages. The theory. The truth I'd been scared to say out loud. Jason was just the tip of something larger. She sat there quietly as I spoke. When I was done, she reached for her phone. I need to talk to someone, she said. Who? She stared at the screen for a long time. Then said. His ex. Claire tracked down a woman named Natalie. She used to date Jason years ago, before he moved into our neighborhood. Claire had seen her tagged in an old social media post and reached out on instinct. Natalie agreed to a call. What she said froze my blood. He wasn't always like that, she said. He changed after he met this guy online. Called himself Captain Kong or something stupid. Ran some private group on the dark web. They used monkey emojis as code. They'd rate women. Keep score. Claire's voice trembled. So Jason wasn't alone. Natalie sighed. No. He was a soldier. But someone else? Someone bigger? He made the rules. That night, as we tried to sleep, someone rang our doorbell. Diesel leapt up first. Barked loud and hard. I ran to the window, heart hammering. But no one was there. Just an envelope on the porch. I opened it. Inside was a single photo. A grainy black and white snapshot from a parking lot. Claire and me. On our bikes. From 3 days ago. Written across the photo in red ink. We like when they run. After the photo arrived, I started sleeping with a bat beside the bed again. Claire kept Diesel closer than ever. She even whispered to him like he was a toddler. I guess we both were leaning hard on the one being in the house who still didn't seem rattled. The picture had changed everything. It wasn't just a warning. It was a message. They were watching. And not from a distance. Someone had been close enough to snap that photo. Close enough to know our route. Our habits. Our routines. They'd studied us. I realized we had become the game now. Benny came back the next morning. When he saw the photo, he muttered something I won't repeat, then got straight to work. We need to sweep the house, he said. All of it. Phones, vents, the dog's collar, hell, I'm checking the damn toaster. We did. Found 2 listening devices. One was under the sink. The other was in the laundry basket. I didn't even get angry. I just felt violated. These people, whoever they were, had turned our life into a live show. Every word, every fight, every moment of silence. All of it, fed to some sick audience somewhere. We went dark after that. No phones. No Wi-Fi. We even got a burner and only turned it on once a day to check in with the sheriff and Benny's contacts. Claire suggested something I didn't expect. We need to leave. I looked at her, confused. You mean for good? No, she said, voice steady. Just long enough to see if they follow. We packed light. Told no one. Not even my brother. Drove out of town in a rental, no GPS, no phones, no digital trail. Benny loaned us a signal jammer he used in his previous life, and we used it religiously. 3 hours later, we reached a cheap motel near a lake. Secluded, quiet. The kind of place where nothing ever happened, and that's exactly what we wanted. We sat by the lake that evening. Diesel ran through the reeds. Claire leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "What if we can't go back?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. At midnight, a car pulled into the motel lot. I noticed it only because of the noise. The engine rattled like it hadn't been serviced in years. An old beige Honda, one headlight out. Nothing special. Except that it parked directly next to our rental. Even though the lot was mostly empty. I didn't say anything to Claire. Just took Diesel out for a fake walk, circled the car. No plates. Just a monkey sticker in the bottom right corner of the back window. I walked fast back to the room. Locked the door. Pack up, I said. Claire looked up. What happened? They found us. We left through the rear door and circled around on foot. Diesel stayed close, ears up, alert. We didn't go to the rental. We knew they were watching that. Instead, we slipped through the backwoods and ended up at a gas station 2 miles down. I borrowed a phone, called Benny. He didn't hesitate. I'm coming, he said. Don't go back to the motel. I'll bring a new car. He arrived 2 hours later. Gray SUV. No plates. Windows tinted darker than legal. He looked tired. Pale. There's something you need to know, he said, handing me a folded sheet of paper. It was a still frame. From a security feed. Our garage. Just 2 days before the brake line incident. And in it, clear as day, was a man neither of us recognized. Not Jason. Someone older. Bald. Wearing a mechanic's jumpsuit. Placing something beneath the car. Who is he? I asked. Benny looked at me. His name's Whitaker. Retired Army. Used to run private surveillance ops. He disappeared from the radar a few years ago. Now he shows up in monkey circles. Claire stared at the photo. He was in my driving class. That stopped us both. She explained, early on, when she first started driving, the class had multiple instructors, rotating schedules. She had only met Whitaker twice. Once during parking practice. Once for highway lanes. She remembered because he never looked her in the eyes, but always stood close. Too close. He gave me a plastic monkey after our final drive. Said it was a dumb souvenir. Claire's voice cracked. I thought it was just a weird joke. We now had a name. A face. Someone higher in the food chain. Jason had been a pawn. Whitaker? He was something else. And he was still out there. We went to Benny's safe house. Old cabin on a cliff. No road signs, no address. Diesel took to it quickly. So did I. But Claire, she didn't sleep. Not the first night. Not the second. She kept looking out the windows, expecting headlights. Waiting for monkeys. On the third night, I found her in the kitchen. Hands trembling. Staring at a glass of water that she hadn't touched. I don't think this ends, she whispered. I pulled her close. Held her for what felt like an hour. And then I said something I hadn't dared say before. I think we end it. The plan came together slowly. We knew Whitaker was careful. We also knew he liked to revisit his marks. Benny had learned that much, he had a pattern. He'd watch women even after Jason moved on. Liked to see the wreckage he'd caused. But we had something he didn't know. Claire. She was bait. And this time, we were the trap. We returned home under cover of night. Benny was on the roof with a drone and a rifle. Sheriff's deputies were 5 minutes out, waiting for our go. Diesel was in a vest, trained, alert. And Claire? She sat in the garage. Alone. Lights on. Door open. Just like the night she first parked there with Jason. Only this time, I was watching from a dozen hidden angles. And Whitaker? He came. He walked in like he belonged there. No hesitation. No fear. Just a slow, deliberate gait. Like he'd done this dozens of times. Claire didn't move. She didn't scream. She just said, "I remember you." Whitaker paused. Tilted his head. "You're smarter than the others," he said. Shame. Then he reached into his coat. But the moment his hand moved. Bang. One warning shot. From Benny. The second was through the air, right above his shoulder. Whitaker dropped the object. A syringe. Claire kicked it away. By the time the sheriff burst through the side entrance, Whitaker was flat on his stomach, hands behind his head. Caught. They found a monkey tattooed behind his ear. They found an address in his boot. And in his home? Binders. Hundreds of them. Names. Photos. Notes. A network. Jason was just one of 20 field men. And the symbol? The monkey? It was a brand. Claire and I sat on the back porch the next morning as the sun rose. Diesel dozed in the grass. Benny snored in a lawn chair. And me? I finally let myself believe it might be over. Not forever. But for now. Because evil doesn't knock just once. It circles. But this time, when it came to our door, we were ready. They said the nightmare was over. That with Whitaker behind bars, and the files confiscated, the monkey network, as the papers started calling it, had finally been dismantled. They said Claire and I were heroes. Survivors. They said we should rest. Heal. And for a while, we did. I fixed up the garage. Got a fresh coat of paint on the walls. New lighting. The oil stains were gone. Diesel would nap out there sometimes, belly up, tail thumping against the floor like a heartbeat that never stopped. Claire picked up gardening. I built her raised beds. She'd dig in the dirt with a focus that was almost meditative. And slowly, her eyes stopped darting around at shadows. The nightmares faded. The whispers disappeared. Even the sound of tires on the driveway stopped making my pulse skip. Until I got the letter. No envelope. No stamp. Just folded paper inside the mailbox, wedged between ads for pizza and lawn care. Typed. Plain. You caught the wrong monkey. I didn't tell Claire. Not right away. Instead, I called Benny. He showed up that evening, still gruff, still armed, still chewing a toothpick like it owed him money. After reading it, he folded the paper once, slid it into his back pocket, and said, "Could be a prank." Could be, I agreed. But we both knew it wasn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up and walked the perimeter with Diesel. He was calm, ears up, tail relaxed. He didn't sense danger. But I did. It sat in my bones like a chill. I ended up in the garage again. My old haven. The place where all of this began. I ran my hand along the hood of Claire's new car. We had it custom-made, hybrid, compact, crash-tested into oblivion. A far cry from the old one. But the memory of fogged-up windows still lingered. And I remembered something Jason had said on the tape. Garages are for ghosts. The next morning, Claire found me asleep in the driver's seat. She laughed, gently. "You okay?" I nodded. "Just thinking." "About what?" I smiled. "Maybe, it's time I learned to drive." I signed up for lessons the next day. We kept it quiet. Didn't tell friends. Didn't post online. It felt like a private victory. More in control. But then, something shifted. It started with a voicemail. From an unknown number. I played it twice before I understood the whisper. "You were always the target." Then came the box. Smaller this time. Inside was not a monkey. Just a car key. Not for our car. For one I hadn't seen in years. The beige Honda. The one from the motel parking lot. It was parked down the street. I knew before I even looked. Claire begged me to call the sheriff. But I didn't. Not this time. This time. I was done reacting. I walked to the car the next morning. It was unlocked. Inside was a manila envelope. No monkey. No message. Just photos. Of me. Claire. Diesel. Benny. All from years ago. Some before we even moved to this town. And one that chilled me. Me as a child. Crossing the street. Seconds before I got hit by the car. My hand shook. Because that photo couldn't exist. No one had a camera that day. No one saw it coming. And yet, here it was. Which meant someone had been watching since then. I took the envelope to Benny. He turned pale as he flipped through the photos. "This goes back too far," he muttered. And then he turned one over. Handwriting. He was always meant to be behind the wheel. I sat with that for a long time. Claire and I had always thought we were just unlucky. That Jason was the disease and we'd been caught in the symptoms. But what if? What if I was never collateral? What if this had always been about me? That night, I drove Claire to dinner. Just the two of us. It was our first real night out in months. We didn't talk about monkeys or surveillance or any of it. Just wine, pasta, soft music. Normal. We laughed. We kissed. We danced under the streetlight outside the restaurant. I think we both believed, for just one night, that we'd earned this peace. When we got home, everything looked normal. Until I opened the garage door. And saw it. Another monkey. Sitting on the hood of the new car. But this one was different. It wasn't cracked. It wasn't plastic. It was made of glass. Perfect. Fragile. Inside it? A rolled-up slip of paper. I broke the monkey. Took out the note. It read. "You're finally where you belong." Claire read it. Her hands trembled. She looked at me. "I don't understand." And for a moment, I didn't either. But then. I did. I remembered the driving instructor. I remembered Whitaker. I remembered all the people who circled my life from a distance. What if they hadn't just been tormenting me? What if they'd been training me? Conditioning me? To reach this point. To sit in the driver's seat. To take control. To drive. But drive where? That's when I noticed something in the passenger seat. A small black device. Red light blinking. Benny would have called it a tracker. Or a detonator. I called it a message. I walked back into the house. Claire was washing her face. I kissed her on the cheek. "I'm going out," I said. "Now?" "Just a quick drive." She hesitated. But nodded. "Be safe." I got in the car. Closed the door. Held the wheel. And then I laughed. Because I finally understood. I had been afraid of cars my whole life. But not because of the accident. Because someone had wanted me to be. Because if I avoided them, I'd never get curious. I'd never drive. And if I never drove, I'd never reach the destination they were waiting for. But now I was ready. Now I could finish the game. I drove for hours. No GPS. No phone. Just instinct. And a distant memory. A road I'd dreamed of. One I hadn't seen since I was 7. The one I'd been walking down the day I was hit. I found it. Stopped the car. Waited. And then, headlights. A car pulled up behind me. Tinted windows. Engine humming. The door opened. And a man stepped out. Old. Thin. White beard. Pale eyes. He smiled like he'd been waiting forever. "I knew you'd make it," he said. I didn't move. "What is this?" I asked. "The final test," he said. "You passed." Then he stepped aside. Pointed to the back seat of his car. Inside were dozens of glass monkeys. All of them etched with names. Names of men. Each one had a scar on their file. Each one had once been hit by a car as a child. Just like me. "You weren't chosen by accident," the man said. "You were built." I stared at him. Then I laughed again. Laughed until my sides ached. Then I got back in my car. Rolled down the window. And said, "Tell the others I'm coming." He blinked. Then smiled. "You'll fit in nicely." I turned the wheel. Pulled away. Behind me, the headlights vanished. Ahead, only the road. And me. Finally. Driving.